Hello. Hello, 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 hello. Welcome on in, everybody. Welcome on in. Welcome on in. Welcome on in. What is going on? Everybody in the club, welcome to our book club. We are breaking down Holly Madison's book, Down the Rabbit Hole. Today we're breaking down the next 4 chapters. And oh boy, do we have a lot to cover. We are going up to chapter 13 tonight. So 13, 12, 11, and 10. And oh boy, are we going to get into all of it. This week, we're talking about the end of Girls Next Door, the end of Kendra's relationship with Half, Bridget's relationship with Half, Holly's relationship with Half, all of it. We are going to get into it. Welcome on in, guys. Let me give you a minute to trickle on in, everybody. Hi, Chris. Hi, Jamie. What's going on, guys? I hope you're ready to break down the rabbit hole. Hi, Amber. Hi, Trish. Hi, Aaron. Have you guys been reading the book? And if you have, what have been your thoughts of it thus far? Sorry, I have a candy in my mouth. Hi, Amber. Hi, Trish. Hi, Coffee Buzz. Hi, Aaron. What up? Hi, Lauren R. What's going on, Zack Pack? Get rid of the hashtag. Oh, okay. Thank you, MB. Hi, Kim Stock from Boston. Thanks, Brittany. You guys are so sweet. Thank you for all the compliments. Come on over, Mary Ann. I always make my way too much. Uh-oh, what's going on with Mary Ann? All right. Isn't the mansion undergoing some remodels? Probably. That would make sense. Hi, Dana. Hi, Jennifer. Okay. So let's start off with chapter 10 from Holly Madison's book, Down the Rabbit Hole. We've been breaking it down each week. So if you haven't caught the earlier parts, definitely go back and be sure to catch up on those. We got into Holly's entering Playboy. We got into Holly starting Girls Next Door, how Kendra and Bridget came into the house, Holly's relationship with Half, and now we're going to see the end of their relationships with Half this week. So, chapter 10 piggybacks off of the success of the Girls Next Door, started leading to some really good like licensing deals. Then the girls now had signed with the management company, or they each had management companies who were invested in their like financial interest of the girls. And we're starting to ask for more money for the girls because they were like, wow, Playboy's really using your image and your likeness. And now, you need to be cashing in on some of that because they're making a ton of money off of you. And we want to make sure that you're making money as well. So Playboy was still heavily in control, and Playboy PR really dictated everything that the girls did. So Holly even talks about an instance where she said they had so much control and they wanted to cut them out of all of these deals, especially now that they had managers to kind of defend them. She said that there was one point where she was designing some bikini designs for a bikini line that she wanted to launch. And one day she noticed that there was a photo shoot that was done with some bikini designs that looked very similar to hers. And she suspected a Playboy of going and taking those ideas because obviously now they're doing licensing. So she's like, let's do bracelets, let's do jewelry, let's do fragrance, let's do bikinis. So the more that she was pitching them, Playboy was like, oh, yeah, this sounds great. This looks very lucrative. So they were taking some of her ideas and she suspected using them without telling her to her own profit and benefit. And she was like, any way that Playboy can monetize them, they were doing it without compensating them, and they loved to exploit the girls. Then came time to sign on to season 5 of The Girls Next Door. And so originally the girls were signed under Hef's production company, which meant that they were talent owned by Hef and not the network. So if they were contracted under the network, they could negotiate their contracts. But if they were contracted under Hef, then they had to abide by whatever he said because he was never going to allow them to negotiate anything higher. I presume that means that Playboy was then getting the compensation, or Hef's production company was getting the compensation and then paying the girls through the production company rather than the network paying the girls directly. And Holly was like, well, that doesn't make a ton of sense. Like, I want to make sure that we're getting a fair deal. I want to make sure that we're making enough money. But obviously, Hef wanted to make sure that he was keeping them under control, under his little thumb. He's like, no, Holly, you're going to stay under my old antediluvian thumb. But the success of the show was really booming. It even landed the scripted film The House Bunny, which was loosely based off of the Playmates or the House Bunnies. Well, I got the Playboy Bunnies, House Bunnies, and that was the film that starred Anna Faris. Remember, and she was like she aged out and she got kicked out of the mansion, and then ended up going off on college. Well, Holly was, like, super excited. She's like, "We got to star in that." I don't know if they were paid for it. She doesn't say whether or not they got compensation for that, but she does say that there was around that same time an opportunity to participate in Celebrity Apprentice, but Hef wouldn't allow it. He was like, "Nope, you can't do that. You're going to be away from me from too long. You're going to be in New York. I'm not going to be able to keep an eye on you." So he was like, "Nope, done." He canceled. He kiboshed that, and she was like, "All I wanted to do was like have an opportunity that I can have for myself." During season 5, Kendra had developed a really bad, like, acne problem, which made her really insecure on camera, so she was starting to film less and less, and she was hiding in her room, and she didn't wanna come out. So then Holly had to step in and bring in some fresh bunnies to be able to fill in for some of the scenes that Kendra was missing. So she found some girls, they got to come and stay at the mansion. There was one girl in particular, her name was Kayla, and apparently Kendra didn't like Kayla and she wanted her to be kicked out of the mansion. So Hef was like, "We need to kick Kayla out." And Holly's like, "Don't kick Kayla out. Why?" Well, it was rumored. Hef said that Kendra said that Kayla was causing trouble amongst some of the other playmates and he didn't like that. Well, it was rumored that Kayla and Hank, who we now know, Basket, who we now know as Kendra's future husband, they were having a little they were having a little fling, a little fling a ding ding. I wouldn't say a menage a trois, possibly a menage a trois. I mean, I'm sure Hank would be into that. But Kendra, I guess, felt threatened. This was just a rumor, but Kendra seemed to have felt threatened that Kayla was talking to Hank, and Kendra didn't want any of that because Kendra was also secretly dating Hank while she was living at the mansion. So, as the season was coming to an end, they were going to shoot another Playboy cover together, and this was ultimately going to be their final Playboy cover together. And as the season came to an end, Holly said Hef was starting to become meaner and meaner and was starting to take out a lot more of his frustrations on Holly, which was really challenging because he didn't take those frustrations, or I guess he did take them out on Bridget and Kendra, but Holly seemed to be the main focus of everything that he would get. Like every time he would get worked up, Holly was his main target. So she said this is when she started to realize that it wasn't the other girlfriends or the playmates that were ever the problem in the house, but it was always Hef all along. And Kendra later ended up revealing that Hef really liked the drama and that he admitted to her that he loves drama and he loves to see the girls thrive off of or I guess they're not really thriving, but he thrives off of seeing all of the girls in constant conflict fighting over him. That I guess was a turn on to him. And after 7 years, Holly was just like, the rules were just, they were still super strict. I wasn't allowed to do anything. I wasn't allowed to travel without, Hef's prior approval unless they were filming the show. They weren't allowed to bend any of the rules, not even slightly. And she's like, I've been here for 7 years. We're now 5 seasons into Girls Next Door. Like, you would think my loyalty would have been proven. You would have thought that, like, at some point I would have earned something. But Bridget and Holly were invited out to a wedding by a friend out in Cabo, and initially they were like, "Hef's probably not gonna let us go," but who knows? Maybe he'll let us try this time. So he initially said, "Yeah, go to your friend's wedding. You guys are allowed to travel to Cabo by yourselves." And they were really excited because this was going to be like their first real girls trip away. And then he found out that the wedding was going to have a reception afterwards. And he immediately retracted his decision and then would not approve of them going to any parties. And Holly's like, "It's not a party, it's a reception. And also, when was the last time you went to a wedding? Most weddings have receptions." He was like, "No, you could go to the wedding, but you can't attend the party after the wedding." She was like, "What? But then what's the point of going to the wedding?" He's like, "You get to go to the wedding. I approved you going to the wedding." She's like, "Well, it doesn't make sense. We wouldn't have enough time to go to the wedding and be back in time for, you know, with the flight, like the flights just didn't work out to where we would be able to fly in for just the ceremony and then be back in LA. And it doesn't make sense to skip out on the reception." So he was like, "Well, I guess you're not going anywhere." So Holly said she became more and more unhappy and she was starting to fall out of love with Hef, or at least starting to realize that she was never truly in love with him to begin with. She said that she wanted a family ultimately, and with Hef being able to produce another child at his age, it was completely defeating, which is interesting because she said that, I guess at one point she revealed that they tried IVF and that didn't take, and they had his semen examined and that they found out that he was sterile. Is that the correct term? Where he's not allowed to produce any other children? I mean, come on, he's old as dirt that at this point, like, of course he's not gonna be able to produce any other children, which is interesting because I believe Crystal, his wife, later ended up saying that she was pregnant with his baby, and Holly's like, I don't know if that's true because he couldn't actually get anybody pregnant. He's too damn old, and his sperm doesn't work anymore. Viagra helps to keep it up, but Hef was happy that, he couldn't do anything more than that. So she was really questioning what her future was going to look like and whether or not her future made sense at the mansion, especially Bridget and Kendra. Bridget was starting to like build things for herself outside of the house and outside of Girls Next Door. And Kendra was obviously off secretly dating Hank. So Kendra and Bridget were now on their way out of the mansion, which only left for Holly and Hef. And she was like, I don't know if I want to live here without Bridget and Kendra, because she'd never really lived with Hef one-on-one. He always had other girlfriends. He always had 7 girlfriends. And then eventually he chopped it down to just these 3, which were his core 3 for so long. And Kendra, she'd really grown up, and she was ready to head off and be with Hank. And Bridget got her show about exotic beaches that she got to go and explore. And she's like, everybody check out my beaches. Look at these beaches, 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 beaches. So they were both on their way out. And Holly was like, I don't know if I could do this anymore, especially not without my girls. Then we get into chapter 11. And in chapter 11, Holly and Hef end up taking a trip out to Las Vegas for a Playboy work trip. She finally was able to get a night on her own after a long day of working. Everybody went to bed. She then hit up magician Chris Angel because she wanted somebody to hang out with, and she knew that he was in town. She and the girls had previously worked with him on, I believe, they were like judges or they gave commentary or something for one of his TV shows. So she knew he was in Vegas. She knew that she had a prior, sort of working relationship with him. So she was like, all right, like, let's see what Chris is up to. I'm pretty sure we can have a good time. She does, however, mention that she remembers him trying to hit on her, which was very interesting. And I'm like, Holly, if you knew that he was hitting on you before and now you're going to hit him up after dark, that doesn't really sound too kosher, but listen, you do you, girl. But so she's like, well, I don't want a scandal. So I don't want the paparazzi to catch us out in Vegas. So let's just do something inside. Let's do something intimate that doesn't involve us like being out publicly, because I don't want anybody to capture any pictures and leak them and whatever. She like wanted to be super discreet about it because she didn't want to embarrass Hef, nor did she want to get in trouble with Hef. So she said that she invited him over to her hotel suite for room service and to have dinner. And I was like, oh, you invited him over to the hotel suite? Mm-hmm. Super sketchy, Holly. Super sketchy. We all know that he was probably thinking that he was going to come over to your hotel room for a little boom boom in the bedroom. But Holly was like, no, that's not it. We're not going to do that. So, anyway, he eventually convinced her to sneak out for the night because he had this low key nightclub nearby. And he's like, nobody will ever see you there. Nothing's going to happen. You're going to be totally fine. So they spent hours, she said, talking over red wine and just, talking about life at Playboy and life and all of the dreams that she had if she ever left Playboy. And they really hit it off and had a great night. She said that she was really flattered that he was hitting on her because it made her kind of feel attractive again. She said most guys didn't really hit on her because she was one of Hef's girls. And if you obviously, she's in a relationship. She's in a relationship with Hef. So you have a preconceived notion of who you think she is. So she was just grateful and appreciative of the fact that she was hanging out with a guy that wasn't a total antediluvian near death and actually found her attractive. That's how like brainwashed and conditioned that she was. So Chris was talking about how he was ready to settle down and pursue a relationship. And she was like, oh, interesting. She said in his eyes, she felt desirable, which made her feel like a human again, which I, one, found very humanizing, but also kind of like, oh, like, it kind of breaks my heart to think that she didn't feel human, that she didn't feel like a woman, that she was a piece of property to Hugh Hefner. But after they had drinks, Chris walked her home and he was like, can I tuck you into bed? And she was like, well, I guess you can tuck me into bed. And he's like, I plan on tucking something else later. And so he went to go tuck her into bed. And then he leaned in for a kiss. And then she met him with a little chuckle. And she's like, Chris, stop. I told you I can't do this. And she reminded him that she was with Hugh Hefner. So instead, he's like, okay, babe, let me take off your earrings. And then he leaned in and whispered into her ears, sweet dreams. She left it. She was like, ha. He also left her a little note by her curling iron. And I was just like, Holly, girl, I mean, obviously, it didn't seem like that was too much of an issue because Bridget was off with Hank, so apparently you could still kind of dibble dabble and do the damn thing, but it was he was expecting some, and she was like, "Nope, sorry, not gonna happen. Good night, peace." So then she went to bed and woke up the next morning to a screaming, scathing phone call from her captor, aka her boyfriend, Hugh Hefner. And he's like, "Oh my God, I had the worst night of my life and it's all your fault." And she's like, "What? What are you talking about? How did you have the worst night of your life? I spoke to you before you went to bed. I put you to bed. What are you talking about?" Apparently, he had security following her and he got a full report that she was out and brought some other man to her hotel room last night. And she was like, "What?" She said that she was so pissed that she had no idea that he would have them followed. She's like, "I was loyal and I was dedicated and nothing even happened." And here he was scolding her and not trusting her. She was like, "Listen, I'm not the one cheating. That's Kendra Wilkinson, who's like your favorite in the house. And yet I'm the bitch that's been by your side since day one. And you're going to question my loyalty." She said after that, she knew it was time to leave. She was ready and she was ready to finally actually tell Hef that she was ready. She went to Mary and she's like, "Hey, Mary." Mary's the secretary who you may remember from Girls Next Door. And she's like, "Hey, Mary, I need to talk to Hef." And Mary's like, "Oh, God, here we go. Let me set up the phone call. We all knew this was coming." And she laid it into him. She laid it on him and she was like, "I'm done. I can't do this anymore. I'm ready to move on. I don't like this life anymore. I have dreams. I want to pursue my dreams and I'm done." So she claims that he begged her to stay and to not go public yet with their breakup because in his mind, he thought that they could work it out. So he dangled the sixth season of Girls Next Door in front of her, being like, "There's going to be a sixth season and you're not going to be able to be a part of it." And she's like, "What? As if fame is the only thing I want and all you can offer me?" He even told her that no one would hang out with her if she wasn't his girlfriend anymore. And then here's the real kicker. He even said that she would be the cause of his stroke and ultimate early death if she left him. First of all, there ain't nothing about his death at this age. He's on his way out. Like the coffin's already set, the funeral's paid for. Like we're just waiting for the old man to croak. Even his wife across the street is like, "Come on, homie, I need that money." So he thought she was in total denial when season 6 began. The whole premise was supposed to be focused on Holly and Hef sailing off into the sunset because now Kendra and Bridget were gone, but that wasn't the case because she couldn't commit to that sort of narrative because it wasn't a true narrative. She had found her own independence, realized how toxic of a boyfriend Hef was and how controlling he was, and now saw herself as an attractive woman thanks to Chris Angel hitting on her. So she said she tried, or that he tried very hard to win her back. He even added her to his will, which he like snuck out and left out, like for her to find one day. And she's like, "Come on, nobody just leaves their will hanging out." Like, obviously, he left it out with the intention of her seeing it. And she looked at it and she saw that he would have given her $3 million after he passed away. My first thought was, $3 million is all he's going to give you. In her head, she's like, "Wow, that's the most money I've ever seen. I would love a $3 million paycheck. He's probably not going to live that much longer. Maybe I can wait it out. Maybe I can have Mary slip a little cyanide in his oatmeal every morning." But ultimately, she was just like, she said that she was disgusted by his final attempt by bribing her with money. During season 6, she claims that she moved out of the master suite, but that the cameras didn't want to film any of that because they were holding out at her changing her mind and sticking around at the end of the day. Luckily, she'd previously been offered a guest spot in Vegas, which now she was ready to cash in on. So she was like, maybe Vegas is my next move now that I'm done with Hef and I'm moving on. Miss Moving On. $3 million was a lot 20 years ago, except Candy Pants. This was not 20 years ago. This was only, what year was this? Like 2011? This is maybe 10 years ago, which, yes, $3 million was a lot of money that long ago, but $3 million is not enough. Go Holly. I would turn that down the money too. I mean, I guess I would too, you know? Yes, Elaine, oatmeal with raisins. Just slip a little cyanide in there, or just dip the raisins in some cyanide and then dip them into the oatmeal. Add a little brown sugar so he can't taste it. Money can't buy you class. Didn't she move out in 2007? I think it was later than 2007 because I feel like Girls Next Door started. I think she moved out. Maybe it was 2009, 2010. That's a really good point. I feel like I looked this up the other day and now I seem to have forgotten it. So let's see. Girls, girls next door. Boom. Okay, so it looks like Girls Next Door the first episode was in 2005 and they had 5 seasons. So I'm pretty sure the final season ended up airing in in 2009 is when 2008 is when season 5 came out. So 2008, 2009 is around the time that she left him. So similar, 2007 wasn't too far off. 2008, 2009. Yeah. Oh nine. So, yes, that was technically a lot of money 10 years ago. She moved out in 2010. I think it was actually 2009. Well, according to the book, it was 2009. It just to the public, when she was now allowed to talk about it on the show, it seemed like she moved out in 2010 because she gets to the timeline next. So, she said, luckily she had the offer in Vegas and she had Chris Angel in Vegas. So she was like, you know what, that's what I'll do. So she began casually seeing Chris Angel, very casual. Said she wasn't ready. She didn't think that she was ready to immediately jump into a new relationship, but at least she had Chris and he was interested in her and he kind of took her under his wing. But the media picked up on things real quick. And they loved the story, the scandalous story that all 3 of Hef's girlfriends were leaving him at the same time for younger men. So the Shannon twins were worked into season 5 of Girls Next Door, which is when Bridget and Kendra announced their departures, even though they had been planning to leave for a while. The Shannon twins were, I guess they had filmed pickup scenes after season 5 had finished production, but they edited them into season 5 to make it look like Hef already had other girls in line before his 3 main girls ended up leaving him, because he always had a lot of girlfriends, right? And God forbid he ever appeared to be single. God forbid all 3 of his girlfriends actually break up with him at the same time and he have nobody, which ended up being the case. All 3 of them left at the same time, and then the Shannon twins came in after the fact, but the way the show portrayed it and the way the timeline that they projected to the public portrayed it was that the twins were already there by the time all 3 girls left. And I believe the twins were already moved in by the time Holly moved out, but she was broken up with him during the last few months that she was living at the mansion still. But she ended up getting a little apartment in Santa Monica. So very interesting. Holly said that a lot of the timeline and all the scenes were like Frankenstein edited together to make the timeline benefit Hugh Hefner. But she said her final Playboy party was the big Halloween bash that fall. She spent most of the night taking pictures with fans because at this point she'd kind of become her own celebrity. And she also said that the elegance and exclusivity of the party was now gone, that now the parties had become more of like a tourist attraction with a guest list of people that bought tickets into the event. And it was no longer like exclusive. She said now everybody had camera phones. So everyone was being photographed and filmed. And so it was no longer that it didn't have that flair that she remembers it having initially, which all the girls kind of explained. Kendra talked about it on Juicy Scoop. I believe Holly and Bridget kind of mentioned it. I know Heather McDonald talked about it on Juicy Scoop, how the food was really good and everything was pretty kosher for the most part. There weren't like crazy orgies or anything that it was actually a decent and enjoyable experience, and celebrities liked going there because it felt a little more exclusive for them, whereas now it lost that exclusivity now that they were just opening it up to anybody. So she said it was at this party that she spotted Crystal Harris, which the twins saw as the perfect replacement for Holly. The twins, as many girlfriends had before, were eager to find some new blood that was hungry enough for a spot behind the ropes that could be the main girlfriend. Holly was now gone, so the Shannon twins were like, we don't want to be the main girlfriend. That sounds awful. So enter Crystal Harris. They spotted her, they took her in, they conditioned her the same way Holly was conditioned to be Hef's new lead. And Holly whisked off and out of the mansion, ready for her new life to begin. Then we get into chapter 12, and this is where she talks about dating Chris Angel. So she fulfilled her obligations with Playboy, headed to Vegas for life with Chris. She was thriving, and the attention that she got, she said, was even greater than the life that she had with Hef, that now she was being seen as like a real celebrity and people were actually interested in her. And that it was no longer just about being Hef's girlfriend, that people actually saw her for being like a reality star for Girls Next Door. She said, but Chris was a little overprotective and that he would even have his security guards have to be with her at all times for her protection. And initially she would excuse it. And she was like, yeah, this is for my protection. I'm a celebrity now. Like, of course, Chris wants my security guards there. Even though Hef was doing the same thing, Hef was just a little more secretive about the security guards following them. So he also hated the ongoing affiliation with Playboy that Holly kept up. He had wanted her to distance herself from that life as much as possible because now he was hers. He was no longer Hef's. She was no longer Playboy's. So he even tried to talk her out of not going to Kendra's wedding. We know Holly and Bridget ended up being bridesmaids in Kendra's wedding. And he was kind of like, maybe you shouldn't go to that. Like, maybe you're beyond that. Like, maybe you've moved past that. The more time that Holly says that she spent away from Hef, the more she realized how unhappy she was with Hef. Then she found out that Hef was bad mouthing her, and so she was like, you know what? I'm going to give him a call and I'm going to give him a piece of my mind because all these people that I knew for so many years that I thought were my friends are now telling me that Hef is talking smack about me. And if your boyfriend has beef, tell him I'm a vegetarian and I ain't freaking scared of him. And so she called him up and she was like, listen, you can't keep doing this. And he kept telling her that she's changed. She's like, look at you. All you care about is your reputation. Now you've changed. You've changed. You've changed. And she was like, you know what? You're right. I have changed. And I like this new person that I've become. Thank you very much. Snap, snap, pat the puss. And she still kept her job at the mansion as an editor for the most part. But now she was officially ready to quit. She's like, if you're going to badmouth me and you're going to talk bad about me, then you know what? I'm a single independent woman and I don't care if you don't like it. It's who I am, period. And so she then cut ties with Playboy and she went under Chris's management and Chris's PR firm. Kendra and Bridget stayed with Playboy PR, or so she thinks. And she said that she was always seeing them do appearances together and that they were being pushed out there like never before. Holly was off on her own now and kind of really cut ties sort of with them too. But Chris had many red flags, one being that he loved her publicity and fame, all until it became a little too much for him. He had a bit of an anger problem. He would often snap at her, similar to the way Hef snapped at her, and he seemed to resent that she was more famous than him. Initially, he liked all of the fame that she had, and then eventually he grew to resent it because people were interested in her, not him, which is interesting. So she said that she'd never been in a healthy relationship before, so she didn't know any other different, but she was just going with the flow. She was just like, well, this is better than being locked up with a curfew in the mansion. For her birthday, they took a trip to Disneyland where Chris staged numerous paparazzi photos that ultimately disgusted Holly. And she's like, oh, can we just can I have a birthday? Can I have a day where you're not trying to capitalize off of me and my image? And Hef also tried to rain on her birthday parade by going to Disneyland on the same day and inviting all of her Playboy friends to go to Disneyland, but not with her, but with him. So he was making them choose who they were going to go with. Thank you, Charmin WBB. What's going on, Charmin BB, with the badge? Thank you for the badge, my love. I appreciate that. Woo woo. Giving some love in the house. So ultimately, she didn't have a great birthday because she had all of these paparazzi that were following them around Disneyland. And the whole time they were trying to avoid Hef and his entourage because he just wanted to bump into them to make it super awkward so that she could see all the people that she thought were her friends that were hanging out with Hef and not hanging out with her. She said ultimately it just ended up being her and Chris because of the friends that wanted to go with her and didn't want to go with Hef. They didn't want to pick a side and be stuck in the middle and get yelled at by Hef later. So they decided to opt out of Disneyland altogether to avoid having to choose sides, even though Hef really wanted them to choose sides. Holly says that even her parents felt like Chris was a little controlling. Her whole life revolved around him and it was all about his world. And rather than pursuing the dreams that she had back at the mansion that she was now ready for, she said that now her whole life was about Chris Angel and promoting his dreams and building him up. She had a desire to feel loved that she had such a desire to feel loved that she dove too early into her next relationship, which I guess is common when you get out of an abusive relationship when you don't really know any better. Um, so she said that she just jumped at the first real attraction that she found outside of Hef, but she was ready to leave him. Luckily, in one of her fits, he told her that she should go home to stay with her parents for a while. And she was like, wow, this is actually a good idea. I think I'm going to take you up on that. So she ended up deciding to leave Chris Angel and go home for a bit and not participate in anything else involving him or his career. And she was like, okay, this is my way out. And she found herself back at home in Oregon with no job, no man, no real direction. And she's like, oh my God, it's like I'm back at the beginning before I ever left for my life at Playboy, which was a bummer because, here she was thinking she was going to have this big life without Hef, only to end up right back where she started. Then we get into chapter 13 when Holly's like ready to get on her own. Chris Angel should have made Hef disappear. Abracadabra. That would have been funny. Could you imagine, Britt? Pulled her hair. Who pulled her hair? Yikes. Have you not heard the story of Hef pulling her hair? Oh yeah, she told that story, I believe, on Juicy Scoop. I don't think she tells that story in the book though. Because we've got to that point. No, I don't think she's already moved out of the mansion. She's living in Los Angeles. She was already dating Chris Angel. But I believe the story that you're talking about, she said that it was at the end, like when when Bridget and Kendra had already left and moved out of the mansion. She said that she was sitting there. But the interesting thing is, she said that he called her a see you next Tuesday in the story where he pulled her hair, right? But in the book, she talks about him calling her a see you next Tuesday, which she said she was shocked by. And that was one of her final moments where she also really knew she was done with him because he'd never used that word before. And now he was calling her that. So she was like, that's not cool. That's not going to fly with me. Thank you. Eat the carbs. I appreciate the badge, my love. Eat the carbs. I'm going to have a little carb after this. But yes. So the story I believe she told in Juicy Scoop was that he got mad at her, he snapped at her, and he pulled her hair and called her a see you next Tuesday. Maybe she just chose to leave that part out of the book. Maybe it was a legal thing, and now that he's, deceased, she doesn't have to worry about that. Who knows? But that story does not come up in the book. But she did talk about that in a recent interview. I remember that. Okay, so chapter 13, Holly moves back to Los Angeles out of her parents' house, and she ends up moving in with Mary, Hef's secretary. She had an apartment in Santa Monica, but she was like, it wasn't very security safe. It wasn't a great part of town. She didn't have a ton of money after Hef. We know they weren't really making a ton of money off of Girls Next Door. They were really only making whatever money that they were hustling on the side. I remember Hef didn't really want them to be hustling money on the side. So Mary took her in and helped guide her towards life as a new single independent woman because she's a survivor like Destiny's Child. And she came up with her list of goals while she was there. And she's like, goal number 1, I want to star in my own spinoff series. Goal number 2, I want to have a show in Vegas. And goal number 3, I want to be on Dancing with the Stars. And after she put together her little manifestation list, she said that out of the blue, Dancing with the Stars fell into her lap. The universe had her back. And she was like, yes, universe. Thank you, Jesus. It was all totally last minute. Jewel ended up getting injured and had to pull out. So Holly, when she came in, only had 4 days to learn her first dance. Said that she wasn't a major breakout star, but she loved the experience. She was only there for a month. So she clearly didn't make it far in the competition. And of course, she's like, have made a public statement supporting me, which was really just his attempt to capitalize off of my success. Because if he was really happy for me and he really wanted to wish me well, he knows how to get a hold of me. He knows how to send a message. He could have sent me flowers, which he didn't. So he's a jerk face. And upon her departure from Dancing with the Stars, she ended up landing a role in Peep Show at Planet Hollywood in Las Vegas. That opened up, and I believe she played Bo Peep. And the second she got to audition for it, she was like, yes, I'm in. She jumped at the audition and she tried out. And ultimately, we know she landed Peep Show and she landed her own spinoff, which was called Holly's World, I believe. And that is where we're going to be entering into chapter 14 next week. So next week, we'll do the final 4 chapters of the book, which are 14, 15, 16, and 17. Boom. Can't complain tonight. I'm new here. He seems really great. Oh, thank you, Julie. Why? Were you saying something awful about me before? Can't complain. I'm new here. Well, thank you, Julie. Welcome on in, everybody. Welcome on in. Welcome on in. Welcome on in. Snaps for Julie. Snap, snap, pat the puss. She moved to Vegas and became Lil Bo Peep. That's right, Monique. So we do know that happened. We'll get into the story of how that happened. I do know that she ended up filming for season 6 of Girls Next Door. They replaced Kendra, Holly, and Bridget with the Shannon twins and with Crystal. Those were the three new girls that replaced them for the sixth season. But all three playmates end up making cameos in, or all three original bunnies. Sorry, not playmates. I used that term before, and then somebody in the comments was like, "They aren't playmates, they're bunnies. How dare you call them playmates?" And I'm like, "Girl, chill." So I was looking because I've been watching old episodes of Girls Next Door. And yes, I saw a couple of you mention the Secrets of Playboy documentary, which aired originally on A&E. I'm currently watching it on Peacock. I know it's also available for people that have YouTube, or sorry, not YouTube, Hulu Live. It may also be on YouTube TV. I know I have YouTube TV too. I didn't check it, but I know it's on a lot of the streaming networks. It's available for free to watch on Peacock. So that's where I'm watching it. I watched the first 4 episodes. So next week we'll break down the last 4 chapters of Holly's book, Down the Rabbit Hole, and then the week after we'll do a book club, but it won't be a book. We'll recap all 12 episodes of the Secrets of Playboy documentary. I probably won't go into detail as much from what wine are you promoting tonight? Tonight I have Disengaging. I'm not going out tonight. I'm Disengaging. Available at No Filter Wine. Thank you for the mention. Eat the carbs. 13% alcohol by volume, but less than a gram of sugar. It's a Housewives inspired wine. Fizzy, crisp, white wine, fizzy, crisp, rosé. 13% alcohol by volume, but less than a gram of sugar. Must be 21 or older to order at nofilterwine.com. Nofilterwine.com. It's my Housewives watching wine. Lately, it's been my Playboy watching wine because I've been drinking it while I've been watching the Playboy documentary and listening to Holly's book. But yes, I will be breaking down all 12 episodes. We won't get into them as in depth because every episode I'm learning so far kind of has a general focus, and I'm taking notes and kind of just pulling like the juiciest tidbits. Like episode 4 had a very niche focus, but there wasn't a ton of like new or groundbreaking content that I found particularly interesting. So we'll just do one big recap of all 12 episodes. Will you be at BravoCon? I will not be at BravoCon this year, guys. Sorry, I would have loved to, but I will not be, unfortunately. But yeah, it will be. I'm curious to see what the next 4 chapters are going to hold because, like I said, we do know that the Shannon twins and Crystal replaced Kendra, Bridget, and Holly. However, Holly ends up filming the first, I believe, 2 episodes of season 6, and that's where Hef and his new girlfriends go to visit Holly while she's in Peep Show in Vegas. So at some point, they clearly either rectified their relationship or, well, clearly not, because later, a few years later, the book ends up coming out. But it seems like there was something that had, or maybe she was under contract. So we'll find out that whole story as to why she ended up filming season 6. Kendra makes a cameo in season 6, and so does Bridget. I don't think they make many cameos. Or actually, Bridget and Holly come back because Kendra had a baby shower that I believe Crystal or the twins or all 3 of them threw for Kendra. So interesting that they were all looped into a 6th season, which makes sense as to why they kept Kendra and Bridget as part of Playboy PR because obviously they still wanted to promote the show and the brand overall. Was Peep Show burlesque or a strip show? I missed that. I believe it was a burlesque show. I don't think it was a strip show, right? If anybody corrects that. Let's actually look at that. Let's look up Holly Madison Peep Show. Holly Madison Peep Show. Go. All right, let's see. 5. Okay. Let's see. Holly Madison and Peep Show. Peep Show is a Broadway show. The show ran from April 2009 to September 2013. Oh, it looks like it may have just been like a show. Like, oh no, it's a burlesque show. Sorry. It's a burlesque show at Planet Hollywood. Ooh, look at who else did it. Kelly Monaco did it. Mel Brown, Spice Girl Mel Brown did it. Josh Strickland from American Idol did it. Holly Madison did it. Wow, she did it from 2009 to 2012. 2009, 2010, 2011, 4 years. Broadway star from Wicked, Shoshana Bean did it. Oh, Aubrey O'Day did it right before Holly Madison did it. Aubrey O'Day did it. She was from Dandy to Kane. She was on Celebrity Apprentice. She's Cuckoo Magoo. Coco Austin did it. Angel Perino did it, who's a dancer. Coco's from Ice-T and Coco. Interesting, interesting, interesting. I'm new here as well, and I'm digging it. Well, welcome on in, guys. If you're new, let me know so I can give you a little shout out. I found this channel a few weeks ago and really enjoy the content here. Oh, thank you for 2420. I love it when Zack tells us the great stories. Thanks, Val. Then that probably explains all of the pills the boyfriend supplied. Speculation. Ooh, who's boyfriend? Thank you, Amber. Amber A, what's going on? I tried out for Playboy in 2002. Interesting. Was it a great experience? Was it a terrible experience? My hair is like so fluffy. I washed it today and I let it air dry, and I feel like every time I wash it and air dry it, it always comes out like just like fluffy and funky. It'll be better tomorrow. Have you heard the next Girls Next Level podcast yet? Is it out yet? I didn't realize it was out, or it must have just dropped if it is out. Always wanted to be a playmate, then just a bunny. Never actually tried, but got to be a Hooter girl. Oh, ooh, Elaine. Elaine says, I love your no filter wine. Thank you, Elaine. I love my no filter wine too. Aw, Sarah Bahu dropped a super sticker. Thank you, Sarah Bahu. I'm in Dallas joining a live that's not like 3 a.m. Yay! Are you sipping on some no filter wine since you're in Dallas? I'm new. Love it so far. Thank you, Nancy. Nancy. Ooh, Nancy's a realtor. Woo woo. Welcome on in to all the newbies. Are they still close to Kendra? No, I don't believe either of them is still close to Kendra. Think you got mentioned in the Juicy Scoop. I got mentioned in the Juicy Scoop podcast. Why? Was it a bad mention? Oh God, I hope. Why was I mentioned in the Juicy Scoop podcast? I always get afraid when I'm mentioned in other podcasts or when I get like Google alerts about myself. I'm like, oh no, am I in another feud? Who am I fighting with today? I promise I credited Heather McDonald for the Bridget and Holly interview. I promise I credited her. I love her. She's great. I like Heather McDonald. Everybody needs to go and listen to subscribe to Juicy Scoop, subscribe to the Patreon, subscribe on YouTube, all the things. Anon. Anon. Anon means anonymous. No mention your name, but I guessed it was you. Oh, what did she say? Oh no, was it shady? Oh no, I don't want to be in a feud with Heather McDonald. All good. Well, if I wasn't mentioned by name, then it's not really publicity, Brittany. What did she say? I like Heather, so whatever she said, whether it was mean, I still like Heather. I vibe with that. Thank you, Fufu. I appreciate that. Oh my gosh, Trish Hobbs Phillips. I love Zach and the Zach Pack. Thank you for the book review. Thank you, Trish Hobbs Phillips. I love you, my dear. Sarah Bajo, I hope you cooked up some good dinner tonight. You're always sharing your dinner recipes with me. Trish Hobbs always sending me those memes in the DMs. Adam and Jason mentioned you with lots of love yesterday. Oh, interesting. What did they say about me, Norma? That's cool. You got an opportunity to try out. Yeah, for everyone that tried out, that is awesome. And subscribe so you all know when it's time to come back. That's right, Aaron. If you guys are watching this on the YouTube, smash the like button and hit the subscribe button. If you want to make sure you always get the tea, and make sure you hit the bell button. That way, the tea is all up in those notifications as soon as it's hot and ready to be spilled fresh. Oh, guys, tomorrow is my Jenny McCarthy interview. So stay tuned for that. I ask her about Playboy. We talk about Holly Madison. We talk about Secrets of Playboy documentary. I don't want to give any teasers or spoilers away, but she does have some interesting things to say about the documentary that I wasn't expecting. And why she wasn't in the documentary. Interesting, interesting. We talk about Donnie Wahlberg. We talk about The Masked Singer. We talk about her lip gloss line. We talk about her autism work. We talk about what else do we talk about? The View, Barbara Walters. Because she was like in a feud with Barbara Walters. So yeah. Wait, where's Homegirl that said I was mentioned on Juicy? Oh, go and listen at the 1:11:51 mark. What? Okay, we're gonna listen to it right now. Now that you told me, Shane, I'm gonna go to Juicy Scoop. Is it the most recent episode? Let's see. We're gonna listen to this live with everybody. They feel like this should be an after party. But yes, the Jenny McCarthy interview is coming. It is really good. Thoroughly enjoyed it. Oh, J-Lo's wedding and Erica lawsuit. I'm assuming this is it because it can't be Thursday's episode. Let's see. Heather McDonald has got the juicy scoop. Okay, so you said the 1 hour and 11. Is this the right episode, Shane? I love Jenny McCarthy too, Norma. Oh. Thank you, Norma. I don't think I'm mentioned in this. Where is Shane? Go listen at the 1:11:51 mark. We're now at the 1:12 mark. Is this what's her name? God, why can I not think of her name? From the Ruy Gomez family. She was in the Hulu documentary. Well, I guess I wasn't mentioned. Sweet James. Oh my god, that's hilarious. I don't think I'm really mentioned. Or even vaguely mentioned. No press is good press, right? All press is good press. All right, well, I guess that is a wrap. Ooh, Candy Pants dropped a super sticker. Wow, the super stickers on YouTube tonight are incredible, guys. Thank you. I like Zack because he does his research. I like the facts. Thank you, Fufu. I try to do my own research. I try to not watch other YouTubers or like I support them. I will bring them on my show and pimp their shows out, but I try to not always listen to them too much because I don't want to steal ideas from them. Um, and I always like to make sure that like my thoughts and opinions are independent of my own, and I do my own research and I formulate my own thoughts and opinions. So listen to the interview with Holly. I did listen to the interview with Holly. It was great. So that's just me. I can only be me. Some people love it. Some people don't love it. All it is me. Fabio Kardashian YouTube used to have Holly's whole audiobook down the rabbit hole. I was listening to it one night. Then the next day it was literally not there anymore. Probably because he wasn't allowed to post that. Sounds like that's a copyright issue that he's not allowed to monetize off of somebody else's work. Um, Holly thinks she has Asperger's syndrome or something. Zach, be positive. They probably said you were fantastic. I mean, I'm sure. Listen, I'm not denying it. I listened to her audiobook on YouTube too. See, people seem to have been enjoying it. Oh, I thought it was the one you mentioned. I thought that's one you mentioned. No, somebody said that I was mentioned on Heather McDonald's podcast. Damn, you're worried about being mentioned. What do you need to be worried about? No, because sometimes people take things out of context that I say, or they'll try to pit me up to like get into fights with other collaborators. I don't know how many times it's happened with other people, where sometimes I'll say something completely innocuously, and then somebody will say, "Oh, Zach was talking about you," or "Zach was saying so and so about you on so and so whatever," and then it like blows up, and then I'm like, "I'm not in a fight with this person." So I do get nervous sometimes because I end up getting pitted into fights with people that I don't want to be into fights with. I am curious what Jason and Adam said about me the other night, though. Talking about how you trash Ron Richards. Oh, is that what it was about? There's a podcaster that trashes Ron Richards? I mean, wouldn't say I trash him as much as I hold him accountable. Um, I think there's a difference. I've trashed him sometimes. He's also trashed me sometimes, as has his wife. So, fair game. Sorry for distracting from your awesome content. No, no distraction at all. Oh, I did hear about this, Marianne. Adam called me and told me about uh Ronald trashing Pops, and I was like, "No, no, no, Ronald. No, no, no. Not okay. Not cool. We don't do that. We don't do that. Period. Zero. End of story. Period. Dot. Done." What happened to your sound? My sound, I think, is fine, Dara. Dora. Jenny is always entertaining. Can't wait. Love Jenny. Love Jenny. We had such a great conversation. It's a 1 hour interview. We talked about so much, and she was just incredible. I remember Jenny when she was the host of Singled Out. We talk about Singled Out. We talk about how her apartment caught fire the night before she had to tape her first episode. Wild, wild, wild. Great interview. Did Jenny McCarthy mention her time on the show Singled Out? That was yes, she did. We talked about Singled Out, talked about all of that. I did not ask her about Jim Carrey, just because it's so old and she's in a new relationship. She's married now. Um, yeah, there was really nothing to ask that she hasn't already talked about or was willing to talk about. So no, there was no. We do not talk about Jim Carrey. Your sound sounds very low on YouTube. Does my sound low, guys? Um, Look for Juicy Scoop with Holly and Bridget. I watched with Holly and Bridget. I listened to her podcast and I don't recall hearing your name. Somebody said that she didn't say my name. What is the timestamp on Juicy Scoop? She said it was 1:11. I'm assuming 1 hour and 11 minutes. Oh, maybe it was 1:11 as in 1 minute 11 seconds. No, that wouldn't make sense. Said it was 1:11. Yeah, 1:11:50. We made it well past 1:11:50, and I heard no mention of my name. This has been a good book. The book club vault. I agree. I can't wait. I think next we're doing what? Jeanette McCurdy's book. I'm happy my mom died. And then we're doing what's the one we're doing after that? Oh, the Meghan Markle book. Jacques has told me the Meghan Markle book is juicy. I'm new to this channel. I'm so excited that you're reviewing this book. Have you decided what the next book? Yes, we are going to be doing Jeanette McCurdy's book. I'm glad my mom died. Jeanette McCurdy was a child star who was abused. Can't wait to dive into that. I went and looked at Holly's podcast, and it's not that long, maybe a minute. It's only 1 hour and 9 minutes. I don't think it's the Holly podcast. I think it was one of the more recent episodes. Audio is good on YouTube and IG for me. I checked both. Thank you. But yes, we'll do Jeanette McCurdy's book, and then we'll do the what do you call it book, the Meghan Markle book, which I heard is super explosive and juicy. People always start crap and never give people the benefit of the doubt. I know. Oh my God, you haven't heard of Ronald Richards' wife, Trish? Oh God, go Google that. That's a fun one. She was fighting with Erica. They were both fighting with Erica recently. Ron Richards is super thirsty. Yes, he is, but like we don't need to talk about him. Yeah, Sarah, no trash in Pops. Do not trash Pops nowhere. Zero. You were the first to take away Ronald Richards' halo. The first, and let me say, one of the only, okay? One of the only to call him out on his misogyny, to call him out for the crap that he told Taylor Armstrong, where he said that she was a liar. He posted paparazzi photos of her saying that her face was all super Botoxed. He is just a gross human being, really, truly a gross human being. And I'm glad that people are starting to see him for who he is, because I said it for so long. I said it for so many months after I had him on my show, and then I realized who he was, and I dealt with all of his behind the scenes stuff. And I was just like, listen, this man is not a great man. And I came out and said that. I was the first to say it. And then everybody was like, screw you. You're an Erica defender and all of this crap. And I'm like, oh, really? Because Ron Richards is no saint, y'all. I know about the woman who married Ron Richards for a green card and then divorced him. Oh, that was his ex-wife. That's not anything I know for certain, but that is a rumor that she married him for a green card and then divorced him. And she looks very similar to Erica Girardi, and people have speculated that that may be why there's a relationship. Double dose of Zack. Please tell me you got her secret to not aging. I mean, can we talk about how Jenny does not age? She looks incredible. Guys, tune into the interview tomorrow. It will be on the podcast, but it'll also be the full video interview. We filmed it when she was here in LA. Beautifully shot. I was so good. So good. I don't believe Jenny had a feud with Carmen Electra. Jenny doesn't feud with people very often. I know that was like the Tara Reid feud, which I didn't ask her about because, again, old news. Yes, no Jim Carrey, no disrespect to the Donnie. Well, I just also feel like it wasn't worth talking about Jim Carrey. Like that was so old. It was so in the past. She's been asked about it before. She hasn't really talked about it before. I know her personally, so I don't want to poke into a past relationship, especially when she's in such a good, healthy relationship now. You are smashing book club. Thank you, Sarah Bahu. I appreciate that, my love. Oh, I missed this one. Playboy movies, docs, the girls, logo clothes are my jam. The boyfriend worked the reality shows, so has the tea. I only made it to Hooters girl status. Angelique, he has the tea. Is he gonna spill the tea someday? Because that would be interesting. Yes, Jeanette McCurdy. I can't wait for the Jeanette McCurdy book. You're smashing book club. Thank you. Zack Pack on the case. We will find the yes, Norma, please. It has to either be Heather's most recent episode or the one before that. And somebody said that I wasn't mentioned by name, but that there was a vague insinuation that seemingly was about me. So I'm assuming they mentioned some sort of podcaster. I'm just very curious because everyone dragged me when I didn't mention Heather by name in my Instagram reel the other day. And then I was like, Heather, 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 Heather. Follow Heather, 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 Heather. Juicy scoop, juicy scoop, juicy scoop. So if she said something not so nice about me, that hurts my feelings because I made sure I was very clear and shouted her out. Yes, you called him out and spoke the truth. Yes, I've been Team Zack with the Ronald Richards thing for the beginning. Thank you, Tess. You're one of the very few, and I appreciate you, my love. People dragged me for it. Dragged me. You made me see him in his true light. Yeah. From the Adams family, his family, the person who Zack toured with earlier this year. From the Adams family, his family, the person who Zack toured with this year. Not sure what that means, Jenny. Aaron. Love Jenny. Yes, can't wait for the interview. I can't wait for you guys to hear it. I thought it was so great. I was just going over edits for the trailer, which will drop in the morning. I remember Jenny was Playmate of the Year, I believe more than once, actually. Jenny and Donnie seem so genuinely happy and in love. They are. Donnie is so worth talking about. Her and Donnie are great. I agree. We talked about the New Kids concert because that was the last time I saw her was when New Kids was here a few weeks ago performing, or back in May. Yeah, back in May for the New Kids on the Block concert. I always knew you were completely honest with Ron from the beginning. Plus, you always had the receipt every time, Quinn. Every time. Oh, I was answering who Pop is. Pop is Adam's grandfather. I believe he did a live with Adam the other day, and Ronald Richards came on and was making fun of him, and Adam was like, "No way, Jose, you don't come from my family. Don't you ever talk about my family." And I agree, Ron. Take your clown ass home. Okay, thank you guys for tuning into Book Club tonight. Like I said, next week we'll break down the last few chapters of Holly Madison's book, the last 4 chapters. So we'll be wrapping it out. Do you know why Katie wasn't attending Sheena's wedding? I don't know why. I don't know why. But I believe I'm supposed to be hanging out with Brock soon, so maybe I'll ask. You never know. Okay. Well, again, thank you guys for tuning into book club. I love you. I appreciate you. Thank you for showing up for me week after week. Don't forget to tune into the Jenny McCarthy interview that airs this Wednesday on the podcast. Hashtag No Filter with Zach Peter podcast, available on all podcast platforms. I love the Zach Pack. I asked some of the questions that you guys sent in. So if you are in the Facebook group or maybe on Instagram, I did put a call out for questions for Jenny. I did ask them. If you haven't tuned into my interview with Meredith Marks, we talk all about Jen Shaw. That aired last week, so that's available on the podcast now. So if you're new, definitely go listen and subscribe to hashtag No Filter with Zach Peter on all podcast platforms, and full episodes are available here on the YouTube. All right, guys, I love you. I appreciate you. Have a wonderful day. I will talk to you later. Good night. Bye, 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 bye. Wow, 500 people watched on Instagram tonight. Very nice. All right. Good night, guys. I love you. I appreciate you. Ciao for now.